Grief was supposed to fade with time. At least, that's what everyone told Lily Carter. A year had passed since her younger brother Alex vanished near Lake Ashford, and yet the pain sat in her chest like an anchor, dragging her down every day she tried to breathe. The police had done their search, dogs, divers, even helicopters scanning the tree line. They found nothing. No torn clothing, no tracks in the soil, no body floating to the surface. The official statement boiled down to the same two words that haunted Lily's nights: no evidence. But Lily knew better. Alex wasn't careless. He wasn't the kind of boy to wander off without reason. He had been 12, timid but imaginative, always sketching monsters in his notebook or asking Lily to tell him scary stories at night. The last time she saw him, he had been smiling, tugging on the strap of his little green backpack as he ran toward the trail near the lake. And then gone. Now, at 19, Lily lived in a fog of memories and unanswered questions. She barely left her room, barely spoke to anyone except Mason, her childhood friend who never seemed to give up on her. Her phone buzzed more often than she wished, full of sympathy texts from relatives and classmates she hadn't seen in months. But on the night of July 17th, at exactly 11:13 p.m., her phone buzzed with something different. The sender, Alex Carter. Her heart nearly stopped. For a moment, she thought it was a cruel mistake, a contact glitch. But then she opened the message. It was a photo. The picture showed a broken wooden cabin under the shadow of tall pines. The roof sagged inward, moss crawling across the walls. A rusted swing hung limply in the background. Lily recognized it instantly. Camp Ashford. The place had been abandoned decades ago. Her fingers trembled as another photo arrived. The inside of the cabin. Dust-covered bunk beds lined the wall. A child's shoe lay forgotten in the corner. Then came the third message. A single sentence, typed in the same sloppy shorthand Alex used to send her when he was in a rush. Help me. The phone slipped from her hands. For several minutes, she could only stare at the floor, her breath caught somewhere between hope and dread. Her first instinct was denial. Someone hacked his number, someone wanted to mess with her. But deep inside, something colder whispered, what if it's really him? What if he's still there waiting? By morning, Lily had made her decision. She couldn't ignore the messages. Not anymore. Mason didn't need convincing. His brown eyes widened when she showed him the photos, but he only nodded. Then we go, he said. We find out what's going on. Chloe, on the other hand, rolled her eyes when Lily called her. So you're chasing ghost texts now? Lily, I loved Alex too, but this is dangerous. What if it's some creep pretending to be him? Then I need to know, Lily said quietly. Chloe sighed. Against her better judgment, she agreed. Finally, there was Ethan. He cracked jokes, as usual, masking nerves behind sarcasm. An abandoned camp by a creepy lake? Yeah, sure, sounds like a Netflix pilot. Count me in. By the end of the week, they were loading Mason's beat-up Jeep with flashlights, sleeping bags, and enough junk food to keep Ethan satisfied. As they drove out of town, the forest thickened, swallowing the road in shadows. Lily kept her phone on her lap, eyes glued to Alex's last message. Help me. The air grew colder as they neared Lake Ashford. An old man at a gas station gave them a strange look when he overheard their destination. You kids don't want to be fooling around there, he muttered, his voice low and wary. Camp Ashford's cursed. Children went missing. Never found him. Folks say the lake keeps what it takes. Ethan laughed it off, but Lily noticed the man's hands trembling as he filled her cup with coffee. By dusk, the Jeep rolled to a stop before the overgrown trail leading to the camp. The sky bled orange and purple, sinking into night. Ahead, the forest loomed silent. Too silent. No birds, no insects, not even the wind. Just the stillness of something holding its breath. Lily gripped her brother's old pendant around her neck, the one he had given her years ago. I'm coming, Alex, she whispered. And together, the four of them stepped into the shadows of Lake Ashford. The trail swallowed them quickly. What had once been a wide dirt road was now little more than a skeleton path, half consumed by brambles and twisted roots. The deeper they went, the less the air felt alive. It was as though the forest itself had been drained of sound. Mason carried a flashlight, its beam cutting shaky lines across the undergrowth. Chloe walked behind, muttering under her breath about tetanus shots and haunted woods. Ethan, trying to hide the nervous catch in his voice, whistled tunelessly until Mason barked at him to stop. Lily kept her eyes forward. Her phone still displayed the photos Alex had sent. She glanced at them every few minutes, as though comparing the trees, the shadows, the sagging roofs of the cabins with what lay ahead. Her brother's rucksack had been green. He had drawn monsters in his notebook. She had to believe that if the photos were real, then he had been here. Maybe still was. The camp revealed itself like a wound in the forest. First came the rusted sign, the letters barely visible. Camp Ashford, EST 1963. The bottom half was slashed by someone's knife long ago. The words "closed forever" spray-painted in red. Beyond the sign, cabins hunched like forgotten corpses, roofs caving in, doors yawning open. The swing Lily had seen in the first photo hung motionless despite the faint breeze that teased the trees. "This place is straight out of a slasher flick," Ethan said, forcing a laugh. "But we find a hockey mask in the first 10 minutes. "Shut up," Chloe snapped. But even she lowered her voice as though afraid the forest would hear. They spread out cautiously. Mason checked the storage shed. Ethan wandered toward what remained of the dining hall, and Chloe kicked through weeds near the fire pit. Lily, however, felt pulled toward the main cabin at the center. Her breath caught when she stepped inside. The smell was of rot and wet wood, but under it lingered something faintly sweet, like decayed flowers. Her flashlight beam caught bunk beds lined in rows, mattresses stripped bare. Graffiti covered the walls. Names, crude drawings, strange symbols that didn't look like kids' work. At the back, half hidden behind a collapsed dresser, Lily saw it. A small green strap poking from the dust. Her knees buckled as she pulled it free. Alex's backpack. Her throat tightened as she unzipped it. Inside were a few broken pencils, a plastic water bottle, and a notebook with Alex's familiar crooked handwriting on the cover. She opened it with trembling fingers. The first pages were sketches, monsters with long limbs, eyeless faces, shadows stretching over sleeping campers. But the final page stopped her heart. The words scrawled in frantic strokes. "It comes at night. Don't sleep. Don't let it touch you." A chill prickled the back of her neck. "Lily." Mason's voice echoed from a doorway. He froze when he saw the backpack in her hands. His face tightened. "Is that?" "It's Alex's." Before either of them could say more, Ethan burst in. He was pale, his joking mask on. "Guys, you should see this." They followed him outside to the edge of the lake. The water stretched black and endless, moonlight barely glinting across its surface. But it wasn't the lake that made Lily's stomach turn. It was the row of children's shoes lined neatly along the shore, toes pointing toward the water, as if waiting for their owners to return. "Jesus," Mason whispered. Chloe joined them, holding something she had found, a Polaroid photo, edges warped with time. She shoved it into Lily's hand. The picture showed a group of children smiling awkwardly in front of the camp's main hall. But Lily's eyes locked on one detail. At the very edge of the group, half in shadow, stood a figure in a mask shaped like a smooth, featureless face. Her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. She nearly dropped it. One new message from Alex's number. The screen showed a photo of the very lake in front of her. Same angle, same shoreline. Except in the photo, the water rippled with movement. And beneath the reflection of the moon, dozens of pale hands were reaching upward from below the surface. The message beneath the picture was short, jagged, almost unreadable. "It comes tonight." Lily's knees weakened. Mason grabbed her arm before she collapsed. "Okay," Chloe said, her voice sharp but shaking. "I'm done. We need to leave. Now." But the road behind them already felt impossibly far. The forest pressed in, shadows lengthening even as the last colors of dusk bled away. The lake shimmered, silent, waiting. Night was coming, and Lily knew deep down that once it arrived, they would no longer be alone. By the time the last trace of sunset slipped behind the trees, the camp had fallen into a silence so deep it felt alive. The forest no longer moved, No insects hummed. The world seemed to be holding its breath, as though waiting for something to arrive. The four of them gathered in the main cabin, their flashlights casting shaky cones of light against the rotting walls. The smell of damp wood clung to everything. Mason had dragged a broken table across the door to make it feel secure, though they all knew it wouldn't stop much if something really wanted to get in. Lily sat cross-legged on one of the bunks, Alex's notebook balanced on her knees. She read the words over and over. "It comes at night. Don't sleep. Don't let it touch you." Her hands trembled. She felt Mason's eyes on her from across the room, but she didn't look up. Chloe paced near the boarded window. "I'm telling you, this is insane. Shoes by the lake. A guy in a mask in those photos? Someone's messing with us. Maybe the same freak who's texting you from Alex's number." Ethan forced a laugh, though his face was pale. "Yeah, well, whoever it is, they're doing a damn good job of scaring the hell out of me." "Then let's leave," Chloe snapped. Mason shook his head. "We can't. The trail's pitch black. You saw how overgrown it was. We'd break our necks before we made it halfway." Lily finally looked up. Her voice was steady, though her chest felt like it was caving in. "Alex warned me. We can't sleep. We stay awake all night. Whatever happens, we don't let it touch us." No one argued after that. Hours dragged like years. The cabin seemed to creak with every shift of the wind. At first they tried to pass the time, Ethan telling dumb jokes, Mason fiddling with a flashlight that kept flickering, Chloe muttering curses under her breath. But soon exhaustion set in. Their eyes grew heavy, their bodies sluggish. That was when they heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, moving across the dirt outside. Everyone froze. Mason lifted a hand for silence, though none of them were breathing loud enough to be heard. The steps circled the cabin, dragging slightly like something wasn't walking quite right. Ethan whispered, "Please tell me that's an animal." The footsteps stopped just outside the door. Then knock. 3 sharp raps against the wood. Chloe let out a strangled gasp. Mason pressed his weight against the door instinctively, though the knocks didn't come again. For several minutes, the cabin sank back into silence, and then the window at the far end shuddered. Lily's flashlight beam swung in time to catch it, a shadow passing across the glass. It wasn't shaped like a person. Too tall, too thin. The door creaked. Slowly, though the table still blocked it, the wood groaned as though something was testing the frame. Lily felt a pressure in her skull, like static filling her head. She gripped the notebook tighter, and then the whisper came. Soft, childlike, familiar. "Lily." Her throat closed. It was Alex's voice. She moved toward the door, but Mason grabbed her arm, shaking his head violently. "It's not him." Before she could answer, the door slammed inward. The table toppled. A figure pushed through the threshold. It was wearing a mask, smooth, featureless white. Its body was wrong, jerking as though controlled by broken strings. Arms too long, legs bent unnaturally. Yet somehow, beneath the mask, Lily swore she saw eyes. Eyes she recognized. The thing lunged. Chaos erupted. Mason shoved Lily back. Ethan swung a flashlight like a weapon, smashing it against the figure's arm. The beam shattered, plunging half the room into darkness. Chloe screamed as the creature's hand shot out, grasping for her throat. And then pain. Lily didn't even see how it happened, only felt it. The icy grip wrapping around her chest, the sound of Mason shouting her name, the suffocating darkness as everything collapsed inward. She gasped. The air smelled of pine. Her body ached as if she'd been crushed. Blinking, she sat up. The forest. Dusk. The 4 of them stood together at the edge of the camp trail. Mason rubbing his temples. Chloe staring in confusion. Ethan clutching his backpack like a lifeline. It was the exact same moment they had first arrived. The same silence. The same sinking sun. Lily clutched Alex's pendant against her chest. Her heart hammered with a single, terrible realization. They had died, and the night was about to begin again. The second time began exactly like the first. The same crooked camp sign, the same suffocating silence in the trees, the same rusted swing hanging motionless in the dusk. Lily froze on the trail, her chest tight. Mason looked at her with wide eyes. "You felt it too, right?" Chloe pressed her hands to her head. No, no, this isn't possible. I watched us die. Ethan barked out a laugh that cracked halfway through. Cool. So we're dead. Stuck in some horror movie rerun. Great. Lily clutched Alex's notebook. Its pages were damp with something that hadn't been there before, the words bleeding across the paper. When she turned to the final scrawled warning, it had changed. It learns. Her skin went cold. They tried to fight the loop. The second night, they barricaded themselves in a different cabin, moving heavy bunks against the door. Chloe insisted on keeping watch at the window with a kitchen knife she'd scavenged from the dining hall. Mason kept whispering strategies under his breath, desperate to find a way to outsmart whatever hunted them. But when the footsteps came, slow, deliberate, circling the cabin, something was different. The creature didn't knock. It whispered, not just Lily's name this time, all of theirs. Chloe, Ethan, Mason. Each syllable was perfect, the voices of their parents, their siblings, people they loved. It called to them like bait. Ethan couldn't take it. He cracked first, bolting for the door despite Mason's shout. The figure was waiting. It moved faster this time, impossibly fast. Ethan screamed. The sound cut short in a wet crunch. The rest of them barely had time to react before the door splintered inward and the mask filled the room again. Darkness. Pain. They woke on the trail. Again. This time, Ethan vomited into the grass, sobbing between ragged breaths. It killed me. I felt it. I felt my ribs snap. And now we're just... What the hell is happening? Lily's voice was hollow. It's a loop. We're caught. Just like Alex. Just like the others. Mason turned toward her sharply. The others? She held up the notebook, flipping through the pages. New drawings bled through as if ink was appearing on its own. Children's faces, hollow-eyed, trapped in circles of black. Every kid who disappeared here, Lily whispered. They're stuck too. Trapped in this night, over and over. Chloe's face had gone pale. So what? We just keep dying? We keep waking up here until what? Forever? No one answered. The third night was worse. They tried running, sprinting through the woods before the sun fully set, desperate to outrun the camp. But no matter how far they went, the trail curved back. The trees twisted into the same paths, spitting them out at the cabins as darkness fell. The creature was waiting this time, standing at the edge of the lake before the last light disappeared. Motionless, mask glinting faintly in the dusk. It didn't attack at once. It only tilted its head in that broken, unnatural way, like a puppet listening for its master. Then it vanished. The attack came later, sudden, brutal, in a cabin they hadn't even entered before. Mason fought with everything he had, tackling the figure, but its limbs bent too far, its strength unnatural. Chloe screamed until her voice broke. Lily felt its hand brush her arm for the first time, ice burning through her veins, and then she was gone. Darkness, trail, dusk. They lost count of how many times they died. Each loop blurred into the next. The monster adapted, changing tactics. Sometimes it stalked them for hours before striking. Sometimes it came as soon as the sun set. Once, it let them think they had survived until dawn, only to rise from the lake and drag Mason under. Each time, Lily woke with Alex's notebook heavier in her hands. More words appeared across its pages. More warnings. More desperate scrawls. And one sentence that made her blood run cold. I'm still here. Find me. By what must have been the 10th or 12th loop, exhaustion hollowed them out. Ethan barely joked anymore. Chloe's hands never stopped shaking. Mason clung to Lily like she was the only thing tethering him to reality. And Lily, she began to notice something strange. Each time they died, the creature's mask seemed less foreign. The eyes behind it lingered on her longer. And once, only once, she swore she heard Alex's voice, muffled, crying from beneath the porcelain face. It wasn't just a killer. It was her brother, or what was left of him. The loops ate at them until time lost meaning. Whether it was the 20th or the 50th night, Lily no longer knew. Each cycle began with the same dusky trail, the same suffocating silence, the same dread coiling in her chest. But with every death, the notebook grew heavier. The pages no longer held only warnings. Now, they sketched maps, crude drawings of the lake's shoreline, arrows pointing toward the water. And again, one phrase repeated. Below. Come below. One loop. Mason pressed the book shut with shaking hands. It wants us dead, Lily. It's luring you. But Lily shook her head. No. Alex is trying to tell me something. He's trapped there. We can't just keep running. Ethan laughed bitterly. Running? We're not even running. We're rats in a maze. Every night, we die a different way. Maybe this is hell. Chloe's face was pale, her voice raw. If there's even the smallest chance your brother's still in there, then do it. Go to the lake. But if we follow you, and this thing drags us under too, that's on you, Lily. Lily met her gaze without flinching. Then it's on me. That night, instead of barricading themselves in the cabins, they walked straight to the lake as the sun melted into the treeline. The water reflected a thin silver sheet of moonlight. Silent. Perfectly still. Too still. Lily stepped forward, holding Alex's pendant in her hand. It had once been shiny, a little compass charm on a chain, but now it looked blackened as though burned. She let it dangle above the water. The ripples spread in unnatural circles. And then she saw it. Not a reflection. A shape. Beneath the water, far below, a spire jutted upward, stone, broken, ancient. The roof of a chapel. Her breath caught. There's something down there. Chloe swore. You're not serious. You're not actually thinking of. But Mason was already peeling off his jacket. His voice was steady, though his hand shook. If Alex is there, we find him. I'm not letting her go alone. Ethan's laugh was hollow. We're swimming into the mouth of the monster. I hate this plan. I really hate it. But he stripped down to his t-shirt anyway. Chloe cursed again, but followed. The water was colder than death. It clutched at Lily's skin, dragging at her limbs as she forced herself deeper. Her flashlight cut narrow beams through the murk, illuminating fish skeletons, weeds that twisted like hands. And then the chapel loomed below. Its steeple was broken, its stained glass windows shattered. Moss clung to its stone walls, but faint light glowed from within, as if candles still burned in its drowned halls. She kicked toward it, lungs aching. Mason stayed beside her, his flashlight beam crossing hers. Chloe and Ethan trailed behind. The chapel doors gaped open, inviting them inside. And what waited there froze Lily's blood. Bones. Hundreds of them. Children's skeletons piled along the floor, tiny shoes still laced, brittle dolls clutched in fingerless hands. And among them, Alex's green backpack, half buried beneath rib cages. Lily screamed, bubbles ripping from her mouth. She clawed through the bones, dragging the bag free. Inside was a sketchbook. Pages floated loose, ruined by water, but one message remained, ink burned into the paper as if written in fire. Free us. The water stirred violently. From the far end of the chapel, the figure emerged, mask gleaming, body jerking in that broken way. Its eyes fixed on Lily. She gripped the pendant, pressing it against the notebook. The chain burned in her hand, glowing faintly in the dark water. She didn't know any ritual, no prayers, but the words tore from her throat anyway, bubbles of desperate faith. Alex, I'm here. I'm freeing you. I'm freeing all of you. Please, let go. The bones began to rise. Slowly at first, then faster. Skulls, spines, femurs lifting from the chapel floor, spiraling upward toward the surface like a storm of ash. The pendant glowed brighter, searing Lily's skin. The figure shrieked. Though the sound was muffled by water, it rattled her skull. It convulsed, jerking violently, the mask cracking down the middle. And for a single, fleeting moment, Lily saw her brother's face beneath, pale, terrified, pleading. Then the world exploded in light. Lily gasped, coughing water as she broke the surface. Dawn. The sky burned pink and gold. She lay on the shoreline, alone. Mason, Chloe, Ethan gone. The cabins were silent, still, half swallowed by fog. Beside her rested Alex's notebook, perfectly dry, though its pages had been emptied of ink, except for one line written in neat, childish scrawl. You freed us, but the lake remembers. Her fingers shook as she traced the words. Somewhere deep in the trees, faint and distant, came the sound of children laughing. Not playful, mocking, eternal. The air at Lake Ashford was different in the morning. For the first time in countless nights, Lily felt sunlight on her face. Real sunlight, not the dying orange glow of an eternal dusk. She pushed herself upright, every muscle screaming. The camp was still. The cabin sagged in silence, covered in moss and rot. The swing creaked once in the faint breeze, then stopped. The others were gone. "Mason," she called weakly. "Chloe? Ethan?" Only the trees answered, their branches rustling softly. No footsteps, no voices, no laughter, except the faint echo she had heard before, drifting through the woods like smoke. Children's laughter. She clutched Alex's notebook to her chest. The pendant dangled, blackened and cracked from whatever force she had unleashed beneath the lake. When she opened the notebook again, most pages were blank. But the last page bore new words in a shaky hand she recognized instantly. "Thank you, Lily. We're free now. Don't come back." Her throat closed. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed her forehead against the page, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The trail out of camp seemed shorter than before. Where once it had twisted endlessly, now it unfolded clearly, leading her back toward the road. With every step, she expected the world to reset again, to pull her back into the loop. But the sun stayed steady in the sky. She reached the edge of the forest by noon. Mason's Jeep was gone. The road lay empty, dust shimmering in the heat. For a brief moment, she thought she might collapse right there, letting the silence swallow her. But something urged her on. She walked, one step after another, until the outline of town appeared in the distance. People stared when she arrived barefoot, soaked, carrying nothing but a ruined notebook. Questions came in waves: where she'd been, what had happened to her friends, what had happened at the lake. She had no answers, none that anyone would believe. All she could say was, "They're gone." That night, Lily lay in her bed for the first time in what felt like months. The world was too quiet without Mason's steady voice, Chloe's sharp remarks, Ethan's jokes. She clutched Alex's pendant, cracked and dull, until sleep finally took her. And that was when she heard it. At first it was faint, drifting through the open window like the wind, a child's giggle. She sat up, heart pounding. Another laugh, higher, closer. Then a chorus of them, echoing from the dark streets below, dozens of voices tangled together. She crept to the window. The street lamps glowed dimly, casting long shadows across the pavement. At the far end of the block, half hidden in the dark, stood a small figure. A boy, his head tilted, his hand raised, waving at her. The laugh rose again, familiar, piercing her like a knife. It was Alex. But before she could call his name, his form dissolved into the shadows, leaving only the echo of children's voices. Lily staggered back from the window, clutching the notebook to her chest. On its cover, new words were scratched deep into the cardboard, as though carved by invisible hands. "The lake remembers, and it never lets go." Her breath caught. The laughter returned, not outside this time, inside. Faint, just behind her, as though a child stood in the corner of her room. She didn't dare turn. The screen faded to black. Somewhere, in the depthless silence, the lake rippled, and the voices of children laughed on.